This is a piece of cheese. It is real cheese. Good cheese even. 2% of everything you spend back in your pocket. Airline miles, hotel points. Free. It says so right on the label. Now, cats have a rule about this. An old one. When the cheese is free, look at what it's sitting on. Last year, American stores paid roughly $187 billion in card fees. That right there, that is the pedestal. And stores are not famous for quietly eating costs. The points are real. The free is not. And the gap between those two facts is one of the most elegant machines in consumer finance. By the end of this video, you will see the whole machine, who feeds it, who built it, and which seat you're sitting in. Spoiler, you are probably not the customer. The feeling is genuinely nice. You buy groceries and a few days later, the bank pays you for it. The bank. The same institution that charges you $35 for being $1 short on a Tuesday. Banks do not, as a rule, do gifts. So when one hands you money, the interesting question isn't whether to take it. It's where the money is coming from. And the confusion is fair, because the banks look like they are competing to give it away. In June 2025, Chase raised the annual fee on a single card to $795, and people lined up to pay it. Nobody lines up to pay more unless the house still wins. So, who is actually funding all this? There are three suspects: everyone, the other players, and probably you. Every time a credit card touches a terminal, the merchant pays a small toll to the cardholder's bank. The interchange fee, a slice of the sale taken off the top before the store ever sees it. On one swipe, it looks trivial. Across a country, it is not. In 2024, Visa and MasterCard credit swipes alone cost merchants about $111 billion, at an average rate, according to the Nielsen report, of 2.35%. Now, the merchant pays that fee. The question is, who the merchant pays it with. Retail is not a charity, and costs that size have a way of finding the price tag, though exactly how much of the fee ends up in the sticker is genuinely debated. What isn't debated is the direction. Back in 2010, Boston Fed economists put numbers on it. The average cash-paying household lost about $149 a year to this, and the average card-paying household received about $1,133. Sort it by income, and it gets worse. The poorest households paid in $21. The richest collected $750. It is a welfare program, administered at checkout speed, running in reverse. The second suspect sits at the same table you do. A Federal Reserve study traced the flow of rewards between cardholders and found something quietly startling. About $15 billion a year moves from naive cardholders to sophisticated ones. And here's the twist worth slowing down for. It is not the poor funding the rich. It is the unsophisticated funding the sophisticated. A high-income cardholder who carries a balance and misses the fine print loses too, platinum card and all. Subprime cardholders alone hand over roughly $1 billion of it. Which raises the obvious question, why would a bank spend so heavily just to move money between its own customers? Because it isn't a thank you. It is an instrument. A 2025 study in the Journal of Banking and Finance watched what a mere 1% cashback offer did to people. Card spending rose 32%, and debt rose 8%, and it stayed up. Strongest, predictably, among the people who were already cash tight and least comfortable with the math. The mechanism is old wiring. In one famous MIT experiment, bidders paying by credit card offered up to twice as much as cash bidders for the same basketball tickets. Plastic doesn't just move money, it numbs the part of you that counts it. The rewards budget is not generosity, it is a lever that pays for itself. Which brings us to the third suspect. You may want a mirror for this part. The rewards are the small engine. This is the big one. In 2024, American cardholders were charged $160 billion in interest, up from $105 billion just 2 years earlier. The average rate hit 25.2%, the highest in the 10 years the government has tracked it. About half of all accounts carry a balance from one month to the next. 14% of cardholders pay only the minimum, the one setting engineered to keep the meter running longest. So do the arithmetic the card is doing. 2% back on the way in, 25.2% on the way out. And here is the cleanest number in the whole machine. One government report, 1 year. Cardholders earned $47.5 billion in rewards in 2024. They paid about $191 billion in interest and fees, roughly $4 in for every dollar of cheese back out. Not the same people evenly, which is And then there is the strangest suspect of all, one that prints its own money. Points and miles are a private currency. The issuer prints it, sets its exchange rate, and can quietly reprice the points you already earned. The airlines run the biggest mints. The first co-branded mile card appeared in 1987, a marketing gimmick to fill empty seats. 4 decades later, the gimmick pays the airline's bills. By one industry valuation, in 2026, Delta's SkyMiles program was worth $31.7 billion. American's AdVantage, $26.7. United's Mileage Plus, $25.3. In several cases, more than the airlines that fly the planes. When travel stopped in 2020 and 2021, the airlines survived by pawning the mints. United borrowed $6.8 billion against its miles, Delta, 9, American, 10. That last one, the largest airline financing in history at the time, secured not by aircraft, but by points. Today, American Express pays Delta roughly $8 billion a year for miles. And most miles are now earned at the grocery store, not in the air. And the Mint keeps one standing privilege. It can devalue. Southwest, overnight and unannounced, in March 2025, cut earning on its cheapest fares to 1/3. Delta's 2023 changes drew a backlash so fierce the CEO admitted they went too far. The CFPB warned in 2024 about exactly this: devaluation, bait and switch. The fine print's answer is very calm. The points were never legally yours. Subprime cardholders forfeit rewards they earned at more than double everyone else's rate. Your loyalty is a line on someone's balance sheet, sold to a bank by the billion. If you want proof that rewards are just fee rebates wearing a nicer coat, the system once ran the experiment on itself. In October 2011, a federal cap on debit card swipe fees took effect, about 21 cents per transaction. Debit rewards died almost overnight. Cap the fee, and the reward it was funding simply evaporates. The machine confessing on the record. But honesty cuts both ways. When those debit fees fell, roughly 3/4 of merchants didn't lower their prices either, according to a Richmond Fed study. So there is no clean lever here that turns this machine into a gift. A bill called the Credit Card Competition Act would bring the same kind of routing competition to credit cards. It has been circulating for years, unpassed. So what does this mean for us cats? 3 questions locate your seat in the machine. 1. Do you ever carry a balance? 2. Do you buy things you wouldn't have bought for the points? 3. Do you know what your points are actually worth this year? At your redemption rate, not the brochures? This is a framework, not an order. Taking the cheese is perfectly rational. Back to the pedestal then. The cheese is still there. It was never fake. Take it. Cats do, every day. And the well-organized ones genuinely come out ahead. But look one more time at the label. Every word on it is true, except one. And that word was written by whoever owns the machine. You were never the customer of a rewards program. You were the inventory. Your swipe sold to the store. Your loyalty minted into miles and sold to a bank. Your patience with a balance? That one they keep. For us cats, the rule is old and it holds. Free is a price paid somewhere else. Usually by whoever isn't looking. Now you're looking. Sniff you later.